This is yet another chilling tale of a trucker that sends shivers down my spine. It unfolds in the vast expanse of the desolate roads of Texas, where the roar of engines and the lament of the wind intertwine in a solitary symphony. A solitary trucker named Tom embarked on his nightly journey as always. It was a dark and stormy night, with rain lashing against the windshield of his old truck and darkness devouring the light of his headlights. As he drove along the endless road, a sense of unease gripped Tom. The trees on either side of the road swayed with an unusual intensity, as if they were whispering sinister warnings. Ignoring his nerves, Tom pressed on, trying to focus on the road, and suddenly his radio went silent and he saw something in the distance, a tall, dark figure standing in the middle of the road. Tom slammed on the brakes, his heart pounding in his chest as the truck screeched to a halt. The figure, barely visible in the rain and darkness, seemed to be shrouded in rags and emitted an ominous aura. Frowning, Tom climbed down from the truck and cautiously approached the figure. "Are you okay?" he asked, his voice trembling. But he received no response. The figure remained motionless, its arms outstretched towards him as if waiting for something. Suddenly, a chill ran down Tom's spine as he realized something was wrong. The figure had no face, just a dark void where human features should be. Horrified, he stepped back, but before he could retreat, the figure began to move slowly towards him as if gliding over the wet pavement. With his heart in his throat, Tom ran back to his truck and climbed in, slamming his foot on the accelerator. The engine roared as the truck shot down the road, but the dark figure continued to pursue him relentlessly, moving with a speed that defied all logic. Terror gripped Tom as he realized he couldn't shake off his pursuer. Desperate, he dialed the emergency number on his phone. But when he held the device to his ear, all he heard was distorted static. Driving at full speed, Tom spotted the flickering lights of an abandoned gas station in the distance. Hoping to find help, he turned sharply onto the entrance road, skidding on the wet pavement. He brought the truck to a stop in front of the decrepit structure and jumped out, looking around for shelter. The gas station seemed deserted, but Tom felt he was not alone. The whispers of the wind seemed to form words in his mind, words of warning and condemnation. With his heart in his mouth, he entered the building, desperately searching for a place to hide. But what he found inside was even more terrifying. The walls were covered in dark graffiti and sinister symbols, and in the center of the room lay an improvised altar adorned with melted candles and strange objects. The air was thick with a dark and oppressive energy that seemed to suffocate any hope of salvation. Before he could retreat, the dark figure emerged from the shadows, its presence filling the room with a palpable sense of terror. Tom recoiled, trapped between the figure and the closed door behind him. He knew there was no escape. Then, in an instant, everything stopped. Silence fell heavily over the gas station, and the figure vanished into the darkness as if it had never been there. Tom stood paralyzed for a moment, unable to comprehend what he had just witnessed, but his confusion was interrupted by a sinister sound echoing in the distance, the howling of wolves drawing near. With his heart filled with panic, Tom realized that the night still held more horrors to be discovered, and that his fight for survival had barely begun. Breathing heavily, Tom hurried to find a safe place within the abandoned gas station. His eyes scanned every dark corner for any sign of danger. The echo of the wolves' howls drew closer, enveloping the gas station in an even more terrifying atmosphere. Then, in the midst of the agonizing silence, he heard a soft whisper coming from a corner. Intrigued and fearful, Tom approached slowly, his heart pounding. There, hidden in the shadows, he found an old man with a somber look and a disturbing gleam in his eyes. "Who are you?" Tom asked. Struggling to control his trembling voice, the old man slowly lifted his gaze, revealing a sinister smile that chilled Tom's blood. "I am the guardian of this place," the old man whispered with a voice that seemed to resonate from the depths of darkness. "And you, trucker, have entered a realm of nightmare." The old man's words sent shivers down Tom's spine. Before he could respond, the sound of claws scraping against the pavement echoed from outside. The wolves were closer. Their presence felt like an imminent threat. The old man stood up slowly, his eyes gleaming with unsettling malice. "There is no escape for you, Tom," he murmured. "The night has claimed you, and now it belongs to you." Tom recoiled, his heart filled with terror. The situation seemed increasingly desperate as the howls of the wolves grew louder. He desperately searched for an exit, but all the doors seemed to be sealed by an unknown force. Then, in one last act of desperation, Tom ran towards the nearest window and smashed it with a desperate blow. The cold night air and rain greeted him as he leaped out of the gas station with the howls of the wolves chasing him into the darkness. He ran through the field, his heart pounding in his chest, but the wolves were close, their eyes gleaming in the darkness as they pursued him mercilessly. Tom knew his only hope was to find help before it was too late. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity of frantic fleeing, he spotted the lights of a town in the distance. With the last breath of energy left in him, he ran toward the relative safety of civilization, praying to leave behind the nightmare he had lived through that night on the desolate roads of Texas. He tried to call his wife hundreds of times, but due to the storm, he had no signal. He entered a tavern and asked for a landline phone, but he was out of luck again. With a trembling voice, he asked the bartender to point out the nearest hotel so he could spend the night. Finally, curled up in a room of a mediocre and dark hotel, he tried to find refuge. But deep in his heart, he knew that the darkness would always pursue him, waiting for the right moment to claim him once again in its cold embrace. When Tom collapsed onto the bed in the dimly lit hotel room, fatigue weighed heavily on his shoulders. His mind was filled with the events of the night, each moment etched into his memory with vivid detail. Despite his exhaustion, sleep eluded him, and he found himself tormented by the chilling encounters on the desolate roads of Texas. The howls of the wolves echoed in his mind, mixing with the sinister whispers of the wind and the ominous presence of the faceless figure. No matter how hard he tried, Tom couldn't shake the feeling of terror that clung to him like a suffocating shroud. As the night wore on, Tom's thoughts returned to the abandoned gas station and the enigmatic old man he had encountered. Who was he, and what dark secrets did he hold? The memory of the old man's sinister smile sent shivers down his spine, reminding him of the inevitable nightmare that had enveloped him. But amid the terror and confusion, one question burned in Tom's mind. What had happened to him that night? What invisible forces had conspired to trap him in their web of darkness? With a heavy heart, Tom realized that he might never find the answers he sought. The events of that fateful night would remain shrouded in mystery, haunting him forever like a ghost from the past. When dawn illuminated the horizon, casting its faint light into the room, Tom knew he could never go back to his life as a truck driver. The roads that once sustained him now only inspired fear and uncertainty. With a heavy sigh, Tom got out of bed and gathered his few belongings. Stepping out into the dim morning light, he vowed to leave behind the horrors of the night, forging a new path free from the shadow of the darkness that had consumed him. Slowly, he walked back in search of his truck at the abandoned gas station where he had left it. As he approached the place, a sense of fear once again gripped him. The whispers of the wind echoed in his ears like an ominous warning. Upon reaching the truck, Tom felt a chill run down his spine. The dark figure that had pursued him was standing next to the truck, its presence filling the air with a malevolent energy. With his heart pounding, Tom came to a sudden stop, too afraid to get any closer, breathless now. The figure remained silent, its oppressive presence enveloping Tom in an atmosphere of terror. Then, with a voice resonating with ancient force, the figure spoke. "You have entered a world of shadows and secrets, Tom," said the figure. "And now, there is no turning back. Your destiny is intertwined with ours, and you cannot escape." Tom stepped back, his mind struggling to comprehend the figure's words. What did all this mean? How had he ended up trapped in the midst of such a dark nightmare? Who would believe what was happening to him? A new sound broke the dawn silence, the howling of wolves drawing nearer and nearer. Tom knew his time was running out, that he had to get into his truck quickly and drive away before it was too late. But deep down, Tom knew that the darkness would always be a part of him, lurking in the corners of his mind, waiting for the right moment to strike again. After that unexpected night, as much as it pained him to leave his job as a truck driver after 20 years of traversing long roads, which paid his bills and supported his family, Tom was devastated and never able to regain his sanity. He never got back into his truck and never knew what happened that night. If you have enjoyed this story, we invite you to subscribe and activate the bell so you don't miss any others. Until next time.